We're experimenting with a different sort of stitch, lock stitch, using two separate reels of cotton.
The machines were more complicated, but the stitches they produced were neater, and they didn't pull apart so easily. The secret of these machines was really the brilliant shape of the needle itself. We've made a giant one here, and you can see the eyes in the pointed end of the needle, and it has a groove all the way up one side that the thread can slip through. Well, with a real needle, if I push it through a bit of cotton and pull it out again, it automatically leaves a loop underneath. And all the machine needs to form a stitch is to pass the second reel of cotton through the loop.
Elias Howe patented an improved machine in 1845, and despite an initial lack of interest, this then acted as a catalyst to other American inventors, and within 10 years all the major elements of a modern sewing machine had been introduced.
I'm going to try and demonstrate these with this human sewing machine, stitching together two sheets of expanded polystyrene.
The needle goes through the material, the bottom bobbin is pushed through the loop, the needle comes out and the stitch is pulled tight, and the material is pulled forward. Every lock stitch machine has these four movements: pushing through the needle, passing the loop round the bobbin, pulling the stitch tight, and moving the material forward.
The movements are all connected to the motor by a series of ingenious mechanical linkages. First, the linkage to the needle itself. This is often just a crank, the simplest way to get an up and down motion from a rotation.
Next, the device that pulls the stitch tight. This is basically an arm that flies up at the right moment, just as Ellie's was doing. But Ellie also had to grip the thread with her other hand to stop the thread being pulled from the reel instead of through the stitch. So on a sewing machine there's a sort of friction pulley between the cotton reel and the arm. It's getting the thread to pass cleanly through these two things before the needle that always makes threading up a machine so elaborate.
The action of the arm itself is surprisingly simple. Just two levers fixed to the needle mechanism. It's wonderful what a vast range of movements can be derived from simple cranks and levers.
Back to the sewing machine. The next action is passing the thread loop round the bobbin. This is what Ian was doing in the human sewing machine. To me, this is the most magical part, how it manages to do it without tangling up. On a real machine, instead of passing the bobbin through the loop, the bobbin stays still and a sort of rotating hook pulls the loop so it's large enough to pass right over the bobbin. With the bobbin back in place, all you can actually see is the red thread slipping round the outside. The last movement, pulling the cloth forward for the next stitch, is technically called a four-motion feed because the toothed metal bit moves forward, down, backwards and up again. It does this with these two off-centre rings on the drive shaft. The one on the right pulls the claw backwards and forwards, the other one makes it go up and down. So both combined give the four motions. This completes the basic mechanism, all four movements connected to a single drive shaft.